You stand in a forest. The woods are thick and smell of life and decay. The dichotomy of such that causes your mind to race with the possibilities of what may lurk within the shadows. The earth below your feet is old, so very old. It's the old that sinks into the bones and unsettles the soul. The forest sits upon a range of mountains that is the backbone of the eastern coast of the United States. These mountains are older than bone and are lush with a history that is fascinating, diverse, and overwhelmingly eerie. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Folkloric. So we're going to discuss the Appalachian Mountains.
Hey, that's where we live.
That's where we live. So this is it's going to be like a little bit different than what we usually do because we're not specifically focusing on a lore or a specific legend or story or cryptid. This is like an overview because a lot of our lores, cryptids, and legends take place in the Appalachian Mountains. And so
Sure.
I feel like it's important that we kind of like set the scene for future episodes. And maybe, because I can't just go, hey, the Appalachian Mountains kind of spooky, huh? And then leave it at that because
That can be.
it can be. And I think it's justifiable reasons why they are. So this would be an episode to refer back to, I guess, to get the idea and to understand completely what these mountains, what the history and why they might be the way they are and why things might like to live here. I mean, we like to live here. We're things. I don't know.
I think we are.
So what do you feel about living here in these mountains?
Are you asking me how I feel?
Yes, kind of a throwback to Cozy Quilt Cinema, our other podcast.
So, the thing I love about Appalachian Mountains, or our area, is it's not the people, trust me.
Not all of them, no.
It's not the people in the fact that it's not about the people. It's about the feeling of the land. There is something very different. See, I've lived in a lot of places in the world, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and in different countries.
And I have similar, but just not in different countries. I've spent along kind of the eastern, southern, western.
Well, and there's a thing about that it feels different.
It does feel different.
You feel, everything is old. The mountains, all mountains are old, but the Appalachian Mountains feel their age. I'll put it that way. They're not new mountains like the Rocky Mountains are
new-ish, yeah.
Geologically new mountains.
And you can tell by the sharpness.
Sure.
They have sharp, pointy angles, which means they have not been eroded with time. Where the Appalachian Mountains, particularly the Blue Ridge Smoky Mountain area, they're very rounded. You can tell that things have had erosion and wind and, it's from wind and rain. So you see that, knowing that these were once super tall and they've worn their way down. That's time. That's definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it gives it a feel. So let me explain our forest. I mean, not our forest, our mountains. I call them our mountains because I feel like, again, this is home, and it is one of those things.
It's not your mountains; it's our mountains.
It's our mountains. But what the thing about these mountains is, if you, and I could be wrong. I could be very wrong because I have seen, people have been like, I hate going to, the mountains. if you are comfortable here, like if you feel at home here, you're meant to be here. And I feel like the people who don't like it, they just don't have the right vibration. And again, she's the cynic and I'm the believer. So for me, it's about syncing with the vibrations. And there's a lot of vibrations.
I'm cynical.
Yeah, I mean, you believe in some of the more natural aspects of things.
I'm skeptical about some things.
Yes.
But in this, I have to agree. There is a feeling. There is almost like so there's a resonance.
Yes, and I feel like there's a reason behind that resonance, but yes, go ahead.
The resonance I feel here is different than the vibrations or the feelings I get elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Here I feel in sync.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm not fighting against a flow. I'm not fighting against a river of something.
Yes.
I am in something. I'm with something here. And I don't know that it's necessarily the land itself, or it could be a combination of the land and the people. It could be something greater than myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say, again, I don't have that issue of gods, but I do acknowledge that things have power.
Yes.
Power is a thing. Power is a force, and magic is a force unto itself. Just like electricity is a force, just like magnetism is a force. Mm-hmm. Proving something is very hard to do. Gravity is a force, yet we cannot prove its existence. We can only prove its effects. We cannot prove that it exists. We can only prove that it has an effect. Now, the feeling of resonance could be attributed to many things. But I'm going to say that for me, it resonates with me on a spiritual level. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like as a God being, but as a coexisting entity. It feels like if you pick up a piece of granite, or you pick up a piece of some kind of crystal,
quartz,
like quartz or something like that, and you feel differently based on the textures. Well, for me, the texture of this mountain is pleasing. Mm-hmm. It feels like I want to be here. I don't hate where I live. Mm-hmm. And I've never had that before.
Yeah. So I've always lived in places out of circumstance, not out of desire and choice. And now I loved when I grew up on the shore in New Jersey, and I loved it. In the sense that I loved going to see the ocean, to touch it, to smell it, and to appreciate it as this giant, great being that I would never be able to imagine having any type of control over. Like, I respect the ocean for what she is, because bitch gonna kill me. Okay, she's strong. So when I moved, I was living in Texas, and I had moved to South Carolina. And the first time I came up here to the mountains, I was drawn. Like, I remember seeing them in the distance going, I want to go there. I need to be in those mountains. And I could never really fully explain my draw, my pull. I just knew that it felt right. And when we ended up buying and, locating here, it was this relief. And also a time where I was able to finally be me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has to do with these mountains. And I have a weird history with them that I didn't even realize with my grandmother living down here when I was younger. And so the things that she brought back with her, I ended up like picking up and not knowing that they had a lot to do with what is kind of commonplace here in the mountains. So the geology of these mountains, it was part of originally the Central Pangean Mountains that run northeast and southwest in the central portion of the supercontinent of Pangaea. And this was during the Carboniferous Permian and Triassic period. So I'm doing a whole little history lesson-y thing here. So when the land masses of Laurasia and Gondwana collided, that formed Pangaea, and that force created this central Pangaean mountain. And when the mountains, again, when that kind of, when they were being built, when they were smashing together and creating these mountains, they believed that some of the mountains in this range were as tall as the modern Himalayas. But the range has, like I said, it's been eroded through time, weather, ice ages. I mean,
Right.
And so that would, when Laurasia and Gondwana, when that kind of separated into what we now know as our continents,
When they drifted.
the
Continental drift is a thing.
the mountains, they chose a side and they went with the U.S. I mean, go figure. Who would have? I wouldn't have. But it's what we did. And so the mountain range is actually, so it includes the Appalachian Mountains, and it also goes up into the Washita Mountains of North America, the Atlas Mountains, the anti-Atlas Mountains of Africa, as well as the Bohemian Massif and the Massive Central in Europe. So the range goes from Alabama all the way up through Canada, through an ocean. There's parts of them in Africa, because again, we were all smooshed together at one time, and up into Europe, which might also be why I crave to that area of Europe. So, I mean,
It's a transcontinental.
it's a very large mountain range, even though we don't always realize that these mountains are that vast.
Sure.
Y'all, the Rockies are part of the Andes. So just think about, these ranges are massive. We've just broken them into we labeled things because it's a human thing to do.
We like to make everything bite-sized, so they're
Yes.
easier to consume.
So when we talk about the resonance, the vibration, and I believe that this has a lot to do with not just the history and of, because dark history, things that happen that are bad, and things that happen that are overly good, because, when you get that excitement, anything that causes high emotional, feelings, it stays, it sticks.
Sure.
But unfortunately, things that are dark and bad tend to stick harder, because those are the higher, more intense feelings that people usually have. We have a mountain that is made of crystalline rock and a sedimentary type of rock. So the crystalline rock is the oldest part of, and it is the part of really the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains is this older Appalachian rock. And it is the crystalline rock. You're going to get your quartzes. Really, quartz is the big one, but we do have rubies, and there's parts of the mountains where you can mine for rubies and sapphires. But quartz is one of the bigger
Right.
crystallines that you're going to get in this area. In the Great Valley, Valley Ridges, Appalachian Plateau, which is quote unquote like the new Appalachia, that's when you're going to get sandstone and shale and the limestone and coal, which is a very big thing to note. And I'll get back to coal in a second. But crystals tend to pick up vibrations. They tend to be they use them in machinery and in computers and electronics because they vibrate. They can transmit vibrations.
It's a piezo effect.
Mm-hmm. And we have that in the mountains. I think when you have anything that is so laden with these crystalline rocks, you're going to have that same effect. And again, it's going to pick up the energies around it, which is why you're going to get the darker parts of the lore of Appalachia.
What you're talking about is the stone tape theory.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I think a lot of people in the paranormal, researchers in paranormal, they talk about. It's a quartz and limestone in the mountains act like a giant hard drive, essentially.
Yes.
I want to say that is, as skeptical as I am about things sometimes, I don't think that's wrong.
I think it's the tape theory. I think a lot of ghosts that people see are not independent entities. And I'm not saying that they don't see independent entities that interact and throw things and da-da-da-da. That would be more on the poltergeist scale, or other things. But I think that there is a high percentage of just a repeated event that happens.
Sure.
It records itself. And it could be something as simple as going to work every day. This person had, walked to work every day in the same path. And just every once in a while, the right moment hits and it replays itself. And I feel like in this area, you're going to get a lot of that.
Well, I think the skeptic could argue that if the rocks could record trauma, that these old mountains would just be a chaotic mess of noise rather than clear visions or auditory or something that are ghost stories. Now, here's my response to the skeptic in this. It is. It is a chaos of noise. No one gets a definitive anything. The few clear pieces you get, so let's do it. Let's play out something real quick. If you were to get an orchestra to all play random notes, all of the instruments to play random notes, and then you have the flautists play a piece within all the randomness, you would still hear that piece.
Yes.
It would just be a lot of chaos around it, but then there'd be that one piece you would pick up.
Yes.
It's the same thing here, I believe. Again, you have to really go on faith on some of these things, but I believe that in some instances, and that's why they're rare, is you do see a glimmer, a movement, a ghost, if you will, a recording, something that has embedded itself within the land. Hurricanes. We've had them here where we've experienced in recent years hurricanes that I believe have traumatized the land.
Oh, definitely.
And that they will be playing back at some point in the future.
And I really feel bad for anybody who has to see that, because that was a horrifying thing to live through. And we didn't even get a fraction of the nightmare that a lot of our surrounding areas got.
So while I am skeptical of many things, I'm not skeptical of everything, because I can't just be a skeptic for the sake of being against something so that we have something interesting to say.
Oh, yeah.
I am skeptical about the things I'm skeptical about,
Yes.
and I am very much in line with the things that I believe in, and they happen to coincide. And this is one of them. I don't think it records everything like a hard drive.
No.
I think it records impact. I think it records that. I think that magic, I think that force has an effect on crystalline structures. And I think that resonates. And I think that that's what we feel when we come here, is that feeling from the layers or the bones of the earth kind of calling us.
Yeah. The other aspect of the mountains is the sedimentary rock, and particularly the coal. The coal industry in these mountains has been historically infamous, really. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
It's... And more so in the Virginia, Kentucky parts of the mountains. But it is a deadly industry. Hundreds and thousands of men have died through history, trapped in these mines, just inhaling the dust and dying from that. Collapses. I mean, there's so much linked.
Well, I think it's in the coal industry or in the coal miners' lives, there are two ways you can go out. One is to die within the earth, and the other is to die with the earth in you.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of these coal miners, and going back to like the beginnings of these coal mines, they were indentured servants to a degree. They worked for a company that also they had to pay for food and stuff like that, because You worked
through
for the
government,
yeah.
through their money, the
It's a company
corporation's
store
money.
type of a thing,
Right.
you know? And so basically they kept their money in a way, and you were beholden to them. They lived in these little tiny shacks, and they would raise families, and they would go and give their lives to these companies. And it is a sad part of history that unfortunately has yet to end completely, because as long as we are still using coal, there's still a chance that these men are going to die, and women who are going to die. I don't know many women who work in coal mines, but I know predominantly male in the past.
Predominantly, but women died in the coal mines back
definitely.
when they were first opened.
Children
died
because they would bring them down there to be lantern holders, and they were dying with the canaries, folks. It's a really dark history. So you get this resonation, and you get this blood, and this is not the only blood on the land. The Appalachian Mountains people, the first people who inhabited this area. In the north, it was the Eastern Woodland Indians, and I'm talking about like the Algonquin and the Mohawk and Iroquois. And down here we have the Cherokee, and there are many, many others. I am not going to go through them all, and I'm not trying to like negate any in particular. There are so many tribes, and if you are uneducated on the indigenous tribes just in this on the east coast of the United States, you are sorely lacking in your education, because it's not just black or white, this and them, and everyone thinks of the Mohawk, the Algonquin, the Iroquois, and they think of the Cherokee, but they don't think, and sometimes they don't even realize that the Cherokee lived here. They know they know of the Trail of Tears, but they don't know where they came from. They just know Cherokee and Navajo, and they put them out west.
Right.
But that's not
towards
where they're
Oklahoma and Missouri.
Yeah, I know we have the Chickasaw, and and I'm really bad about this because I know I'm not saying the names right. The Lumbee, that's a big
Lumbee,
yeah. So I mean, there's so many, and I don't want to do them any type of disrespect or dishonor. So just know that there were so many, and they were treated poorly, as most groups, unfortunately, that are not white. So you look at the Trail of Tears, which happened in the fall and winter of 1838-39, and how many Cherokee individuals and other indigenous people who kind of were swept up in it died on that trail, and died just passing through the mountain. In the fall and into the winter, guys, they expected them to pack up and cross these mountains in the cold and head west. This is horrifying.
They didn't expect them to. They forced them to.
They forced them to.
Now, they did say, do this, and they gave them some time to do it. But this was their home.
They should not have had to leave their homes.
Right. This was their home. It would just be like someone coming to your house and saying, you have a month to get everything out of this house and move.
Exactly.
And you're going to do it without any money, without any means to do so.
Exactly. And that's what they were forced to do. And it's makes me angry. And I can't even...
Well, the Trail of Tears was worse because...
Oh, yes.
They gave them a month. It's like giving us a month to get out of the house. Except they come back a month later and we're like, we're not moving out of our house.
Yes.
And then they pull guns on us and say, you're out. And just kick you out. Except it's in the middle of winter. You have no clothing. You have nothing.
Nope.
They kicked you out with nothing.
Yep.
With the barest of necessities and no food.
And then you look back up to the north when the Pilgrims and the early immigrants came over and settling in the land of the the northeastern tribes and taking their land and not even apologizing. And yes, we can sit there and tell stories of the Pilgrims, and we can sit there and tell stories of the groups that worked well with the indigenous people, but those were so few and far between.
And they don't erase the atrocities.
They don't, because inevitably, even when they were working together, one of those white assholes turned around and caused them to be taken from their land or to be killed, wipe them out. There's always somebody who fucks the whole thing up. So honestly, indigenous people have every fucking right to hate us. So there's that. But I'm trying to not be angry today. So in 1528, there was an expedition where the Spanish encountered a village of indigenous people near modern present-day Tallahassee. And their name was transcribed as Appalachian or Appalachia, but it was still like Appalachian.
Right.
But they don't know if that was actually the name of the tribe or just the Spanish being...
The Spanish.
Yes. Yes. And while, yes, I know that Spanish technically are not white, they were part of that European...
They were colonizers.
They were colonizers, so I'm going to point fingers at them just as quickly as I will point to anybody in Europe. And, well, us. So the Spanish began to call the area, not just the tribe, but the whole region, Appalachian. And it is the fourth oldest surviving European place name in the U.S.,
right,
with St. Augustine being number one. And St. Augustine is like over 200 and something year old city. So unfortunately, the name was not universal, which is why we have, up until the 19th century, the northern parts or parts of the mountain, not necessarily the northern parts, but parts of the mountains were called the Alleghenies.
Right.
And we have the Alleghenies or the Allegheny Mountains. And our old pal, Washington Irving, he wanted to call the United States either Appalachia or Allegheny or Alleghania. He didn't want us to be called the United States of America. He wanted us to change our name to Appalachia or Alleghania.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I would have been okay with that too.
Yeah.
So yes, it is pronounced Appalachia or Appalachian. And that is definitely a southern thing. I know I grew up saying it the way they say it in certain parts of the north, Appalachia and Appalachian, but it is Appalachian. It's that latch is really hard. Being here and the people who live here, I was saying it and I didn't live here. I was saying
Appalachian.
Yeah, because I didn't live here and that was the way I learned how to say it.
Sure.
But being here, if you say that, and it's funny because we used to go to this little breakfast place and they had an Appalachian omelet and she'd get the Appalachian omelet.
Well, if I'm going to mispronounce one, I wanted to mispronounce both.
Exactly. So, and it's like, this is a debate on how to say the name. And it's so funny because I will say it and I'll have people, they'll be like, no. I'm like, yeah, you're not from here, are you? I'm not even from here, but I know how to adapt and not get my butt handed to me for saying this is a big thing here. You don't say that wrong.
Learning to say the names, learning to respect the labels that have been on this land for a very, very long time, longer than some families have existed. It's important to do it correctly and to honor the fact that this is not an American thing. It is not a white thing. It is older than us. It has been here for a very long time, and we just need to honor those words.
Yes.
Words have power. Why would you lessen that power?
Exactly. And so, and about it being, these mountains being old. So when archaeologists have, studied the mountains with the geologists, they have not found any mammal or air-breathing, let's put it that way, fossils in the older parts of the mountains. Sedimentary, yes, but they're usually water because, again, the Permian
Basin.
Yeah. I lived in the Permian Basin, so that is weird because it's a desert, but yet we talk about underwater sea life and there's lots of fossils everywhere. There's actually like these sand dunes that people go and play in. It's like having a beach without an ocean, and it's weird. But you can find fossils and arrowheads and stuff like that. But in these mountains, you won't find ancient historical saber-toothed tigers or something like that. Now, we have panthers in these mountains. And I did not know. I mean, y'all, I thought panthers were tropical. Little did I know. And then panthers are a big thing here. I thought it was just going to be like cougars and bobcats, but no. Fucking black panthers.
Catamounts of all kinds.
Catamounts of all kinds. And yeah. And we actually have, this is actually a global warming issue. But we have armadillo up here now.
We do.
And it is not right. We should not have armadillo up here, but we do. But when they say that these mountains are older than bone, that's what they're saying. It is older than most, even dinosaurs. Though there is the Appalachosaurus, which they did find, and I believe it was in Ohio, and I think I have that in my notes further down. So the tallest mountain, before I forget, the tallest mountain in our range is Mount Mitchell, which is over 6,000 feet tall, above sea level. And the smallest is in Ohio, and that is Campbell Hill at just over 500 feet. So that just shows you, I mean, we have a big, broad range in these mountains.
Sure, but there are no peaks, they're hills.
No, they're rounded. They're very rounded. They're soft. I love going up to the parkway and looking over, especially like certain times of the day. And it's like ripples, like waves. And the mountains are beautiful.
The world is old.
It is very old.
The Appalachian are the teeth of the world. And it is worn down over time because of all the gnashing.
Okay, weirdo. Okay, so let's get to some spooky aspects of these mountains.
I thought we just did that.
Oh,
It's spooky. Biting earth.
If you want some really spooky, creepy, messed up stories about the Appalachian Mountains, and they are fantasy stories, it's all fiction, check out the podcast, Old Gods of Appalachia. Highly recommend it. Stephen Shell is awesome as a narrator. I love it so much. So if you get a chance to, and
we went to one of their shows.
Oh my God, it was fantastic. And Cecil Baldwin from Welcome to Night Vale was there. So I was like double fangirling. And if you get a chance, though, it's fiction, but it is so well done, like to the point where you have to sit there and go, holy shit, it's not real. Because we do live in these mountains, sometimes it's hard for me to listen to that and not go, oh shit, yeah, no, that's a thing. Because it can be creepy up here. And we have things that are like, okay, so we have the boogers and the haints. And if you don't know what a booger is, it's not just the thing you pick out of your nose. These are spirits of some form. A haint is a spirit. You're going to see, if you come to the Carolinas, in Georgia, and I think parts of Virginia even, they will paint the roofs of covered porches with what they call haint blue. And it is a good luck charm to keep the, obviously, haints, bad spirits, from coming into your house. This is an old slave tradition. It goes back a ways. A lot of the stories that you get in these mountains, a lot of the lore, a lot of the history is an amalgamation of the Scotch, English, Irish settlers for the area, mostly like the Scotch Irish. You got there's a lot of German influence in here. We have a lot of weird German restaurants here. I mean, a lot of German restaurants.
Sure we
it's
do.
Weird because I grew up in an area where there were a decent amount of German people, and I never saw a German restaurant until I moved here. So there's that.
Because I've been to Germany recently, fairly recently, historically, and used to live there, but our weather, our level is very close to theirs. So when they move here, when they move to this area, they find it very appealing.
That's cool.
Because it has the rolling hills. It has a lot of the same weather, a lot of the same expectations.
Yeah.
So they find it very pleasing. We have a large German population in the area, and I work for a German company.
Yes. So there you have it. So you have this amalgamation. You've got the slave influence. You have the indigenous tribes influences, and then you just have the European influence, and you have these groups with very strong backgrounds and very strong traditions and superstitions and beliefs, and you put them all together and you get the Appalachian Mountains, basically.
Well, I'm going to talk about the Haint.
Mm-hmm.
The Haint blue, those blue porches and ceilings.
I actually want to paint ours blue.
They're meant to mimic water to keep spirits away. There is a dark history in this, and that dark history is the indigo trade. So the indigo trade that produced that dye was a massive driver of the slave trade. So there is definitely... Was it pulled for that? No, but it is definitely an indicator of how we use the things that we have. So the indigo that was made into the blue also became a thing that was assimilated into the granny magic of the area.
Okay, yeah, because I'm going to talk about granny magic in a bit.
Yeah, so...
yeah, because I've actually noticed also when you see a lot of bottle trees, which is another superstition, but it's a to keep the spirits from coming into your home. They get trapped in the bottles, and they use a lot of blue glass bottles. And I wonder if that's kind of harkens back to that as well.
I think there's an attachment to the blue.
I think so.
I think so.
So, and you're going to have the traditions. There's a lot of superstitions, which we'll get into in a second. But let's talk about I have a couple little things, but the Brown Mountain Lights. And this kind of gives you, these two little bits I'm going to go over are just little bits to touch on the drastic differences of the types of lore and myth that you will encounter here. So the Brown Mountain Lights are these lights that have been spotted in the night for centuries, or for over a century, sorry. They appear as glowing orbs that hover in the sky over the mountains, and they suddenly appear, disappearing soundlessly or exploding soundlessly. The first report was in 1913 by a fisherman who claimed to see an odd red light on the horizon. In 1922, the U.S. Geological Society, they investigated, and they said that it was just headlights of cars passing trains. But see, that didn't work after a huge flood messed up the area in 1916. So that doesn't make sense timeline-wise, but I couldn't find any other things to note the time. But there was a flood in 1916, and it washed away the roads, the bridges, power lines, everything that was in the area. Now, when I say power lines, don't picture power lines like we have now. These were like Red Dead Redemption level power lines, and that's only because you were watching that guy the other day.
Basically, they were poles in the ground, and they were wires just hung up on top of them, and they were basically telegraph wires, poorly shielded, and a lot of times they were powered from one substation to another, but they rarely got very far.
Yeah, they didn't get very far. And the problem is all of this was washed away and the lights were still appearing. So kind of like defeats that saying that that's what it was. No one really knows what causes these lights. There are they were considered to be UFOs in an episode of The X-Files.
Sure.
And there are bluegrass songs about these lights, and but they're more of a ghost of a slave looking for his last master.
Which is just...
I know.
Not good.
And now there's a popular indigenous American belief or folklore that there was a bloody battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba, and it took place in the mountains on Brown Mountain, and that many lives were lost, and that they claim that the lights are the ghosts of the grieving women who are searching the mountainside for the bodies of the fallen soldiers, or the warriors. So we have lights that are unknown, and it's anything from ghosts to UFOs.
Well, I think that the skeptic in me does point to gases.
Yes.
So you can have gases that project these balls of light because it's offsetting the gases in the swamps.
True.
Or in the cracks in the mountain, you're getting these gases combining and having an alchemical effect or an explosive effect, that kind of thing.
And I can get behind that. In 2016, the Charlotte Observer, they had a report from a Forest Service officer that had stated that there were up-close encounters with these beach ball-sized orbs up on the mountain that would float by and vanish. WLOS, a local TV station, our news station, they had actually a report from a scientist who worked at Appalachian State University, aka App State, that they believed that they were believed to have an image of the Brown Mountain lights that they caught on 2 digital cameras. The scientists have not been able to determine what caused the lights, but maybe it was ball lightning or naturally occurring mountain gases, and that are like the widely accepted theories.
Well, and we have that as well in where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Zenith lights.
Yes.
And it's swamp gases or ball lightning, and it's the same supposition is that that's what that is.
In Texas, we had the Marfa lights, which they believe is just aliens.
But I'm not saying that it's only that. Just because it is something doesn't mean it's not part of something else.
Yeah.
So, like you say, the ozone's being depleted. Well, it's not because we're lacking ozone. It's because it's being defeated by fluorocarbons,
Yes.
stuff like that. And that's in hairspray, or used to be, and it can be in many other things. Just because the balls of gas are balls of gas doesn't mean there's not an influence there from other things, like a ghostly entity could be using that power for itself to produce its own image or to produce that effect.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that it's not a ghost. It just means that that ghost is a ball of gas as well.
So the other lore I'd like to talk about really quickly is the Moon-Eyed People. Now, we don't usually like to talk about indigenous stories because, again, with anything that reflects a people's belief, we are not the experts. So I am not using this as, I'm not saying I'm an expert on this at all. I am just relaying my research on this because I felt it was important as a dichotomy to the Brown Mountain lights, because the Brown Mountain lights could be man-made. It could be because of the mining in the area. It could be, there's so many man-made reasons of why those lights exist. Opposite spectrum is there's no explanation for this at all, and that's where I'm going for with this. So according to the Cherokee legend, before the Cherokee moved into the Smoky Mountains, there was a race of small white bearded men, white men who lived in the mountains, and that they believed that these men, quote unquote, possessed all the land from the Little Tennessee River to Kentucky, with a line of fortification from one end of their domain to the other. They believed that these men, who they lived in rounded log cabins, had large blue eyes and fair white skin, and were sun-blind during the day, and emerged from their homes only at night to hunt fish, wage war, and build their homes. Because they could only see in the dark, the Cherokee people called them the Moon-Eyed People. So that is yes, we have many locations in the world alone of groups of or tribes of people that ancient people described, but we have no proof of that they existed. However, While some people believe that the descendants were a small group of Welshmen who came to the Americas long before the Spanish had settled in the Smoky Mountains, like somewhere around 1170, I did not know this was a thing that happened. Now I want to go on that. I was trying to not go down that slippery slope. The legend is that the Moonite people, they eventually abandoned their homes and were driven from it, or they were driven from it, and they traveled west, never to be seen again. But there's art that the Cherokee had created of these people who had very rounded, wide, flat faces with large eyes. And honestly, when you look at the pictures of it, they kind of look like grays, like aliens. So not saying that that's what they are. I'm just saying what they look like to me. So whether a small blue-eyed race of sun-blind white men inhabited the Blue Ridge before the Europeans, it's kind of like, we don't know.
Well, and that's the colonial bias,
Yes.
right? Is that in the 19th century, people were saying that these were descendants of the Welsh prince named Madoc.
So you went down the slope. I couldn't go down.
I didn't go down it. I just saw that the precipice was there, and I can see it from up here. But that theory is definitely a colonial bias. Because the more grounded theory is that the legend describes an indigenous group of albinism.
Which is a good possibility as well.
Right, which explains the skin tone and the light sensitivity. It explains it much better than just Welsh people exist. I don't know about you, but when I see a Welshman, I don't go, that's a gray. And I definitely don't go, why are you out in the sunlight?
Yeah.
Sure, you're pasty, but you're not avoiding the sunlight.
And honestly, again, I'm not 100% on the whole history of that area, but weren't the Welsh kind of treated kind of shitty along with the Irish? Maybe not on the same level as the Irish, but didn't the English treat them?
No, I think they were pretty badly treated.
I mean, all I could think about, and I hate to use this as an analogy, but Eddie Izzard talking about the Druids having the Welsh move the stones from Wales to Stonehenge. I don't know where I live anymore, Yeah. That's all I can think of, because that's, I just remember that piece of history.
But it's important that you check these things out for yourself.
Yes.
So if you want to see a hidden gem, go to Murphy, North Carolina, and check out the Cherokee County Historical Museum.
Yes.
They have a weird conjoined statue in the basement that's supposedly a physical representation of these people. And maybe learn something about the history of the area. I think that it is very likely that there was a strain of albinism.
Probably.
Which affected that group. And most people, when you see someone who is drastically different than you, you push them away.
Yes.
And they form their own colonies out of necessity. It is entirely possible that they bred out.
Oh yeah, and I do believe albinism, they don't have that long of a lifespan compared to like the average.
Right, but it's entirely possible that they bred that out, so you can't see an instance of it really today.
Yeah.
Not in that mass quantity, and the record of the physical record, bones, stuff like that, wouldn't show it.
No, and honestly, like, what if it was like an albinism / lepers colony type of a situation where that's where they sent, like, this was something that was like.
Well, I think they would notice that these were all lepers. I'm talking about.
That's not what I meant. Like a leper colony in the sense that they sent them somewhere.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah,
they pushed them. They probably, as most humans do, when you see someone you think is abnormal to you, you push them away. And that is definitely something that we have to defeat with ableism.
Yes.
But it is something that people do tend to do as groups in society, is to try to keep your normalcy. Whether that is a true normalcy or not, it's very subjective. But I think that in this case, that's probably what happened. I don't know for sure. Again, people more learned than me will definitely know at least more information.
Yes.
So make sure to look into that, but try not to fall into the colonial spin on this, because the Tales of the Moon-Eyed People were here long before the Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand that this was before the Welsh would have been here.
Yes. Now they're saying 1170, but that doesn't make sense.
That's
to
just
me.
when the colonials were here. That's just when the Welsh were here to, supposedly the first time.
Yeah,
And we don't know that for sure.
I don't know about many Welsh explorers, but again, that's not my forte in history, so I don't know.
A lot of people touched ground here.
Yes.
They didn't stay. They touched ground. They gathered supplies. They left.
Because these mountains are not easy to settle.
Right.
They were never easy to settle. So here's some superstitions for you. Do not whistle at night. We do not whistle in the Appalachian Mountains at night because while it seems weird, but evil spirits and bad luck it's inviting them to your home. If you hear somebody whistle in the woods, you did not. Do not respond if you hear somebody say your name. There are things in these woods that do not like you and do not want you here. That's not to say that you're not welcome in the mountains, but not everything is friendly. Because there's blood in these mountains, and the things that...
It's natural. It's nature. Nature has its aggressors.
Yes. So, the Curse of the Haints, which we've already kind of talked about, the color blue and the haint issue here. We have... And now this one I've never heard of, but I think it's funny, is spitting on a fish before you catch it. Now, how the frick do you spit on a fish? When this one says you must spit on a fish before you catch it, it's thought that this act will ensure good luck and guarantee that you'll have a bountiful catch. I guess you have a fish, or maybe it's your bait. It doesn't say, but that's one I've never heard of in my life.
I don't know. What I'm picturing is them having it on the line, but not actually out of the water.
Oh.
And spitting at the water.
Maybe
that's a giving of some kind.
Maybe.
Like when I'm pulling away, I'm giving something back.
Maybe.
So that you're not just owing a debt.
That's true. It's one of the ones that's, to me, more obscure. I've never heard it. And
I've never heard it myself, but again, there's so many.
It says Appalachian people have the way that their connection that they have with nature, and their belief is that the natural world operates by its own set of rules, which, yes, it does. By respecting and acknowledging this, you might just end up with the best catch of the day. So maybe you're right. It's giving back to where you're taking from. Wishing upon a star, I think, is universal, and I do not necessarily think that is an Appalachian belief, because I feel like every
It's not an Appalachian.
No. So it's definitely, it transcends cultures.
Yeah, because there's a big freaking star in the sky and it's falling, and you're going, well, I better wish on that.
Wishing upon that first star, and obviously if you see the star, and it guarantees that your wish will come true, and it's the first star of the night. And
it's the first star of the night, not a falling star.
No.
But a first star of the night.
Yeah, so the first star that appears is one you wish on.
So they're doing the version of first to comment. Yeah, gotcha.
Basically. So there's a lot of healing and healing beliefs up here. So you got your root doctors, which, again, never heard of the root doctor myself, but I thought it was important that these are individuals who use a lot of the natural land around them to remove curses, to cure ailments, to protect against bad spirits, and they use the plants from the wild, which
that's granny magic.
It is granny magic, but I think this is just a male equivalent, is the root doctors.
Yeah.
Spin doctors is popping into my head. So the thing is though many of these healers are very crafted and very knowledgeable, the idea that they can manipulate supernatural forces is often made fun of in other cultures, but in the Appalachian Mountains is still seen as legit, that they have these abilities. And this also goes with the granny magic. Don't let a black cat cross your path. That is old. We have a black cat. She crosses our path constantly. It's more to her own detriment than it is to ours.
Yeah.
It's more of an emotional scar for us
We put a bell on her. We still trip over
Oh
her.
my God. Like today I was walking across the floor and I said, don't do it. And she went phew, right in front of me and got kicked.
But the reason why you don't let a black cat cross your path is because they don't care if you trip over them.
Nope.
They are some haughty assholes.
They are.
Black cats,
Dicks.
I love them. They are, I think, the most cat of all the cats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they will trip you and they will not have any shits to give about you falling.
No. So this one's actually like my grandfather, who did not grow up in the Appalachian Mountains. This was his big one. And he grew up with a father from Italy. And, well, his mother passed away when he was a little guy. But he had a lot of the Italian background.
A lot of superstitions.
Oh my God. He wasn't just a little superstitious. He was very superstitious. I mean, that man.
He was super.
You did not set the crib up before the baby came home from the hospital. You did not take the baby out of the house until the baby was 2 months old. But that's that for him, that was a religious thing. Because you had to have the baby baptized.
I think a lot of
christened.
these are based in actual like forethought and health, and then they are placed into supernatural. So like when, for instance, don't build the crib.
Oh, definitely.
That saves your feelings because that crib will be there as a reminder if your child dies.
Definitely. And
it is to save your feelings. It becomes a superstition because they said, well, I didn't do it and my child was okay.
Yeah. And so that's like, and this is in a time of high child mortality and baby mortality.
Sure.
So the risk of childbirth, not to say that it's gotten that much better, but that the risk is very high. And so the risk of not coming home with that baby was pretty high. So
even now, you don't, if you're pregnant, you don't announce it
until you're like 3 months, at least. Yeah.
Right. Until you're well into it.
And that's a superstition because you don't want to, it's believed that you don't say, because you don't want to be bad luck, but also you don't want to get everybody else's hopes up or tell everybody and then have to tell everybody again.
Well, and now it's a legal matter because if you tell anybody that you're a week pregnant and then you find out that
you lost the baby,
you could be held for murder.
Yeah. So there's that.
Because, we live in a patriarchal society.
Okay, so now let me give you a couple of my grandfather's others. Now, one, along with the feet off the table and
a lot of things with the devil. Don't run with the devil.
No.
Scissors.
The salt over the shoulder, that is a thing. But you know why? It's because if you
can blind the guy behind you.
Well, there's that, but it's a fae, demon, whatever it is. They have to count the grains of salt.
Yeah.
So you throw the salt.
I know, I was making a joke.
Yeah, but you do blind them because, they're looking over your shoulder.
That's why I throw pepper.
Yeah, well. So, along with the feet/shoes on the table, because that was his big thing. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Is it because the crystalline structure of the salt itself can also be?
I think it has to do a little bit to that, but I also believe it. I think it has to do with them having to count them.
Sure, but the crystalline structure of themselves are basically a trap.
That is true. But there's another reason. Like, so another big belief out here is you don't sweep your porch.
Yeah.
Because anything that wants to come to your house has to count all the leaves or whatever is on your porch before they can get. They have to count
get behind that superstition, even if I didn't believe it.
Because apparently, things that are
I don't like sweeping. So
well, also, and I guess what they're saying is anything that is a bad spirit is Rain Man. Because I'm not going to say that they're ASD, but they're definitely Rain Man because they have to count them.
Yeah, there's definitely some ableism within the community on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But my grandfather, you didn't open up an umbrella in the house. That was and I still can't do that.
Okay,
I get very freaked out about that.
For me, that's just practical. You can't get through the fucking door.
You can't. But it always freaked me out. And then there's one about a hairbrush, but I think it was like a hairbrush in the kitchen. And that's just, I think, a sanitary thing.
Yeah.
But again, he was a funny man.
Don't put your toothbrush above the toilet should be another superstition.
It really should be. Nasty. So they also had killing a snake will bring bad luck, which I kind of can deal with that one because I don't want to kill snakes. Unless, I lived in West Texas and we had rattlesnakes and what my friend used to do, she was a herpetologist, and she would release snakes that would counter the rattlesnakes. They would take the land and it would like territorial-wise, they would keep them away.
What snakes would take out a rattlesnake?
That's the problem. It's been so many years. I don't remember what snakes she would.
Well, they were indigenous to the area.
Yeah,
okay.
no.
I was like,
No.
boa constrictors, because that sounded like a great idea.
Bunch of coral snakes in the middle of West Texas.
Okay. I gave a copperhead a gun and put it out on the...
Man pinned a 20 to its chest and said, "Good luck, buddy." Okay, so we have the old woman in the mountain. Who is my retirement plan? I want to be the old lady in the mountain. So
we have several instances of this just outside the Appalachians that we just talked about.
Yes.
We have Baba Yaga and the Kalya.
Oh, yes. So
did I say it right?
Yeah, Kalyach. The
See?
Kalyach.
You told me not to do the
Well, no, you don't do it.
I thought you told me not to do the
No.
yach.
Well, you can say Kalyach.
Okay, we've done that enough.
Yes, okay.
It sounds like we're
No,
Fleming up.
yeah, Fleming it up here.
The divine hag, we will say.
Basically, so these, if you're disrespectful or unkind or careless, you may find yourself lost or cursed by the old woman in the mountain.
That's just common sense.
And it's just basically the spirit, the belief of this, that the spirit is part of this deep reverence for the land. And, again, that is my retirement plan, that in felonies.
So, one of the things I found out in my research, we didn't really get to go over it that much because we were talking about so many things
Yes.
With Baba Yaga, is that one of the reasons why people in Scandinavia and Russia might have built up that legend of Baba Yaga is because they used to build their storage sheds on top of tree stumps to keep the predators away from their food.
Oh.
So you would see it standing in the snow or standing there with flowers around it.
Legs.
And it looks like legs that they're stilted,
I like
that
that.
they're sitting on a tree trunk.
I like that a lot.
So that is definitely, and that could be a thing here as well. I don't know.
I don't think it is because I don't think that would be stable. I mean, other than
Well,
that's
it
not
was
true.
pretty stable for them. It's food storage,
Well-
not a storage like for like a house or something.
But I do think that if you look at the not our house particularly, but if you do look at a lot of the houses that are on the mountains and everything, they're built on the mountainside, so they have to kind of have that bit of stilting. So yeah, to a certain degree, I believe maybe they would do something similar.
If we had a house that was like that on the side and it had the stilts in
Make
the
it look
front,
like chicken legs.
we would definitely dress it up like chicken legs.
Fuck yes. Okay, so let's get to Granny Magic, because this is my last hit on this, guys, because Granny Magic hits me deeply. So, the Granny Woman, Appalachian Granny Magic, these are usually the elder woman in an area who has been around, seen it, she knows the stuff. She's got a plethora of Appalachian superstitions that she has steeped herself in. She is usually that she can tell if someone's pregnant. She's usually the person you go to for removing a pregnancy. We don't talk about that, but, they were the ones that women usually went to for ailments for their children or for help. And there's also, there's this belief that if a pregnant woman, if she looks at like a tree or an animal, that her baby will be like, what was the one?
Well, take on the aspects of that
Yeah, and I think I
thing.
remember years and years ago, it was like she looked at a rabbit and they thought that her baby was going to be like a rabbit monster.
That is
baby.
a holdover from the indigenous people, in which they believe that experiencing like an unusual thing like a bear or something like that, your child, if you had a child, it would take on those aspects. And that's usually why they name them, running bear or something like that.
Okay.
Is because it was taking on the aspects of the strength of the bear and that kind of thing. So there is a holdover from that. And with Granny Magic, though,
They would make an amulet or something to
Right.
protect them.
but this is about an amalgamation of like several different things. So we have the granny or the older woman in the village or in just the loose housing arrangement in the mountains.
Because that could be also the woman in the mountain.
Right. Who had enough knowledge of the flora and the fauna in the area to find remedies and was essentially a de facto doctor in the area because they didn't have access to larger cities or could even get to them from where they lived in these isolated areas.
There's a lot of abandoned towns in these mountains, and it just shows you how cut off they were. And they are not that far from big cities that we see on the maps, but at the time they were. And when you were relying on a horse and buggy, or you're relying on, the one guy in town who happens to have a motor car that might get you where you got to go, medicine is going to run out quickly. Well, you're not going to necessarily have a doctor.
20 miles away to the nearest town
could have been
doesn't mean anything if you're pregnant and you have to walk it or ride on a horse and it's over a ridge.
Yes, and if there's a problem with the pregnancy, well, most people would just give birth at home. But if there's a problem with the pregnancy, they're going to want a midwife, or they're going to want the granny to come. Usually the granny in the town was usually the midwife. And these women, so they went by many, many names. They did kitchen witchery. It's granny magic, root work, or just straight out witchcraft. And they had traditions of using the native plants, and they would perform magic. Regardless of whether or not you believe in witchcraft and or magic, this is still magical what these ladies did. They learned by word of mouth from watching their elders. They picked up the knowledge, and they passed it on to who they deemed as the next to learn it. Other women would come and learn from them. And this was a word of mouth tradition to these villages. And these women were not just picking up quote unquote witchcraft. They were learning from the indigenous people in the area. They were using their Bible they may be practicing witchcraft, but they steeped it deeply in Christianity. I am practicing, and I have bought many books thinking, I want to learn about the magics in these mountains. And it's a book that is 90% Christian, and it's about Bible verses.
Right.
And it's because that's a huge pull for the Appalachian granny magic. And so
it also keeps you from being burned at the stake or anything,
probably.
Steeping it heavily in Christianity. But it's a mix of like Scots Irish, African, and Cherokee herbalism. All of these things seem magical because there's so many different places that they're pulling from and so many different knowledge bases that they pull from to create this very weird, like, amalgamation, like I said before, of magic, of herbalism that isn't seen really anywhere else.
No, I mean, I myself harvest purple dead nettle in the spring because it is a healing. It's healing. You make a tincture, you can make a salve, and this stuff works. And I learned it from, Appalachian granny magic. There are, the plantain. You can pull plantain leaves, and you can also make another healing aspect. Willow bark, you can make an analgesic. And if you don't have Tylenol, if you have to live rough, you can use willow bark. These are the things that you learn from the Appalachian grannies, but also these are things that you can learn in a book because this information is now in books.
Knowing how to process them is a lot more detailed.
It is.
So you can learn them in books. It's important, though, to realize that the oral traditions of handing down these different instructions through stories and stuff like that is something they did for a reason, because it gave them the feeling. So, like, if you were to make a cake and you just told me, make the same cake, here's the list, I would not be able to replicate your cake. But if you showed me how to do it, if you told me the story behind the things that I'm doing, I would be able to replicate it fairly accurately.
Yes.
And I think that is the reason why a lot of it is maybe steeped in Judeo-Christianity, or steeped in the culture that they knew, is because it was easier to relate the aspects of the Cherokee or African or Scots-Irish. Those areas all had a tie that they could put on it, a bow on it, and say, well, this is what it is because this is my story. It's taken from other places, but I made it into my story.
And you can guarantee that a lot of the remedies that the grannies used came probably from slaves, because do you think on a plantation that especially the more uncaring of the masters was going to give and provide medication to ailing slaves? The ones who cared only cared because they were going to lose monetarily. But the most, in most situations, they didn't care because they saw them as possessions. So they would have to figure out the knowledge that was passed down from their generations of living on this land, how to survive with the herbs and the plants in the area.
In a foreign land that they weren't familiar with. In a foreign land that we were
very unfamiliar with, knowing that also that their cultures from their first generation had these gifts. Because you see these tribes in other countries and in Africa in particular, and they do have healing and they knew how to use these things. So a lot of this stuff, you're right, it's multicultural. It is definitely a homogenous belief system. Probably there is racism. There most likely is because, again, white people. But it was these ladies that kept some of these little communities alive.
Yeah.
With these traditions. And it's honestly, it's that in itself is magical. It, to me, is knowing that these herbs and these plants and those animals and putting this stuff together. And yeah, maybe we do it under the moonlight. You can see better under the full moon. And you do it blah, 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 blah. Maybe,
Just because something has a mystical connotation doesn't mean it also doesn't have a common sense reason for it existing.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're part of the story so that you know that doing it in the full moonlight is the best way to see it.
Yes. And before we go, really quick, no, granny magic is not a closed practice. There are some places that are saying that because it is a dying art, that it's a closed practice. Because it is a dying art, it is not a closed practice.
Also because it is told through story.
Mm-hmm.
Grannies passed it down, not just to their family, but to the people in the area.
Yep.
If you're in the area, it's being passed down to you.
Yep.
Because that's how a community survives.
Yeah.
Is passing down the information, and these stories are told to everyone who is willing to share it. And so it can't be a closed practice.
It can't be. But I see why people would want to, well, it's, the Appalachian, but it's not. It's not. And that's the one thing I have noticed being here is they're welcoming.
Yeah.
And
if you live in the Appalachians,
if you are open to listening to the stories, and that's just truly true with a lot of elderly people, just listen to them. They've got a lot to teach you.
and they're not always.
Not always. I mean,
sometimes they're really racist.
Sometimes they're very racist.
Sometimes they're really ableist, and
yes.
Everyone
but I'm talking
they
about,
have a lot of faults.
They do have a lot of faults, but I'm talking about like these types of histories.
Sure.
Listening, because I mean, yeah, they're probably going to talk about N-word insert here, which I'm not going to say, because they are old in what it is. We do live in the South, but also
we can take things and make them better.
Learn from the past and make it better, people. So,
how do you feel about the mountains now?
I still love them. I love these mountains. I'd hug them if I could.
You can just come on down to the Appalachians and give it a hug.
Yeah.
Don't fall off the waterfalls. Please stop climbing
Please
those.
stop coming and falling off the waterfalls, guys. They're dangerous. They're beautiful. They're dangerous. They will murder you.
They're just as beautiful from a distance.
Yes. So, and don't forget, it is the super full moon when we were recording this right now. So,
Sure.
If you want to do some magic, go out and burn some bay leaves with some intentions. This has been Folkloric. And if you like what you heard, and you have a tale or two to share, not just about today's topic, but any odd or scary story that you'd like to hear us talk about, send us an email at folkloricpod@gmail.com. Or join us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Folkloric Podcast. Please make sure to follow and subscribe to Folkloric wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to check out our other podcast, The Cozy Quilt Cinema.